Okay, I'm back, and I have to admit I had an issue with my camera shutting off again, and it shut off, and I've already cut these, so I hope and I don't think I can save it. It didn't save it, so I'm going to give you the measurements and let you know what to do. Your chipboard, you can buy chipboard I buy it at Hobby Lobby, and it comes in the mat. I get it back in the framing department, so they're mat boards, and you can buy them in a huge package. They do come all different colors because they're scraps, but they're like $7.99, and then you can use your coupon, and so it's a really good savings. Now you're going to need to cut 4 pieces of your chipboard, and you can use a box knife and a ruler. I just use my cutter. It takes a little while, but I just can't go back and do it. It's the 3rd time, and I apologize. So you're going to cut 4 pieces, 6.5 by 6.5 inches for your cover, and then you're going to cut 2 pieces that is 3 inches by 6.5 inches. Then you need to cut 4 pieces of chipboard that is 6.5 by 2.5 inches. Okay, so once you get those cut, now what we're going to do, and it doesn't matter that it's colored, because you can choose either to glue your colored sides together. It's not going to show. So what you're going to do is take your glue, and you're just going to make a squiggle mark. Nothing too drastic. You just want these 2 pieces put together. Move this a little bit. Okay, there we go. Put those together, and then set them aside. Now if there's stranglers hanging and you don't like it, I just buy these blocks at Sally's Beauty Supply, and they're great. Go over the edges. Okay, let's go ahead and glue our 3 inch by 6.5 inch. And me and my computer are just not getting along, and it keeps timing out, and it's just starting to irritate me, and I'm afraid that's what is shutting my movies off. Okay, now our 2.5 by 6.5. Go ahead and just glue those 2 together. I got a little too much glue, so I'm going to have to hold this one for just a moment. And then the next piece. Okay, so now you will have 5 pieces. You'll have 6.5 by 6.5. You'll have another 6.5 by 6.5, the 3 by 6.5, and then these 2. So now you've got some nice sturdy pieces for your chipboard covers. Now the next thing you need to do is get out your cutter, and you're going to need your 6.5 by 6.5 inch paper, and we are going to cut it so that it is 10 inches long by 12 inches. Take that one off. Let me just put my glue away. And we're going to cut the second one 10 inches. Okay, and you're going to need another piece that is 10 inches. One of your scrap pieces that you just cut off is going to actually work just fine. Okay, now we put our cutter aside, and what I'm going to do is take this little piece right here, and actually on the 10 inch, this is the 10 inch side. I know it's not getting, okay. 10 inch side, I'm going to take my 3/8 of an inch score tape. I'm going to put it down here, and then my smaller piece, I'm just going to go along the edge, and I'm going to go on this edge. The reason we had to do this extra piece is because the paper is just not long enough. And just get another edge there. Okay, so let's go ahead. Better make sure that's down. Go ahead and get this score tape wrapper off of that. And then also here on the short piece. Whoops. Then we're going to go ahead and adhere this one down. Your papers won't be even, and that's okay. We have some cutting to do. I always make mine wider. I just like to make sure that I have enough to work with. Ah, I did it again. Okay. Let's go ahead and take this off. Let me just check my computer, make sure we didn't shut off. No, we did not. Okay. Let's get that piece off. Because if we have to start over again, I'm not going to. I'm going to check my computer. Okay. You do have a gap in the middle, but you don't have to worry. It's not going to show. Just like this is the back of the Christmas album that I did. You can't see it. So that's going to be hidden under your pattern paper. So after you get all of that down, let's go ahead, make some room. Let's grab our chipboard pieces. So first one we're going to start with, and then I like to use another ruler that's about 1.5 inches as my guide on the edge. Let's see if you can see that. Okay, let me bring this over. Okay, so that's going to go down first. One of your covers. Then we're going to put down this one. And now here's our back cover. Make some more room here. And then we have the spine on the other side. This is long, so I'm going to have to pull it. And then our little flap. So let me bring this up now and see if we can get it all in. So we'll just have to kind of work around because my camera just is not wide enough, the angle. So let's start with the first 6.5 inch piece. Now for this, I like to use the 1/2 inch tape, and I'm going to go ahead and put it around all sides. When you're doing your covers, you also need to put tape in the middle, because if you don't, it's not going to be secure down, and your paper will kind of lift. You'll see it. Okay, let's make sure it's all down tight. Now, okay, if you're using glue, and I've never used glue for my covers, I don't recommend it, but if that's what you're using, it's still okay, I'm sure. Go ahead and get your glue on. I just wouldn't use a lot of glue. You don't want your paper to bubble. Then I just put my ruler down, because you're not going to get this perfectly straight. Well, I'm not anyway, and I'm just going to eyeball in the middle of the paper, because we're going to be cutting this piece and this piece anyway. Okay. After you get that secure, I take my 1/4 inch and I just put it right up against that edge. This is going to serve as two purposes. This is actually my spacer, and it's also, when we take it off, it's going to help adhere the top to the bottom. So our next piece is going to be the spine. Okay, let's go ahead with our 1/2 inch tape. And I'm going to go ahead and put 3 pieces down. Remove the score tape, or if you're gluing, but I need to make sure that I get it pretty level and just on the other side of that 1/4 inch tape. See, now you've got a nice space there for your book to fold. Okay, now our back piece. Again, 1/2 inch score tape. And I'm going to take 2 more down, and my score tape's getting stuck to everything. Actually 3, sorry. Now before you put this down, you want to make sure to put your 1/4 inch spacer there. If you're gluing and you're not using score tape, you might want to go ahead with your ruler and make a mark about 1/4 inch, because if you don't, you won't be able to fold your book. And let me move the camera so you can see what I'm doing. And you don't have to worry too much about edges, tape sticking over your edges, because you're going to be covering all your edges. That's the only thing when making this cover. It's such a long cover that it's hard to get it all on the camera. Okay, now do you see how, let me bring it down so you can see how the 2 pieces where they came together meet? It's on the back, so you won't even see that once you get your pattern paper on. So we have front cover, it's fine, and we have the back cover. Now let me move it down here, move my tools over, and then I'm going to go ahead with my 1/4 inch. I'm going to make my mark here. Make sure that's down. And another one of the 2.5 by 6.5 pieces. Go ahead and get score tape on there. Match it up. Right, push it down. Okay, now our last piece, which is our 3 inch by 6.5 inch, which is the little flap on the front. 1/4 inch score tape again. Almost threw my score tape roll in the garbage. I do that. Have you ever been working and then all of a sudden you throw away your pencils or whatever you're working with? Well, my score tape just fell in the garbage. Now on this piece I am going to go across the top because it's wider. And down the middle. You can see my score tape's crooked. You don't have to get it on perfectly straight. That's the beauty of it. Get all of our covers off. And let's go ahead and lay this piece down. Okay. Now I turn it over, take my bone folder and just make sure everything is down and secure. Turn it back over and I just go around the edges with kind of the sharp point. Don't push too hard. You just want to make a kind of a score mark to soften the fibers. Just go along that edge. Along there. Now we've got the excess paper. So next you're going to take, again, I use this ruler. I love it. It's the perfect, it's about 1 1/4 inch. And it also is metal. So when I use my box cutter, which this is the box cutter you can also use for your covers. Now you can see why my table is such a mess, because I use my box cutter here. When you're using your box cutter, just make sure, and your metal ruler, that you don't go too short. You want to keep your folds, the paper that you're going to fold over, at least 1 1/4 inch. See, this is pretty long. I'm going to have to back way up. Just cut that right off. Take my scissors to there. Really, there we go. And turn it to the other end, which should be actually perfect because that's where we started. Just have a little bit there. If you leave too much paper, you're going to have a lot of bulk underneath when you fold it, and it's not going to look very nice. Okay. Sorry about not having a wider lens here. Is getting not very sharp. There we go. So there you have it. So let me see if we can bring that through. Come up a little bit more. So you've got your spacers in between. Now what we need to do is we need to miter these corners. Now when you cut them, you want to make sure from this point to there that you do not cut. You have to leave about a 1/8 of an inch. You can leave a hair more, but do not cut it too short. If you cut them too close to this edge, they won't meet, and then you're not going to be happy because your book will have, the paper will gap. So now that we've got that cut, see how that's how your end should look. Okay. Now, if you've used score tape, go ahead and remove these center pieces. Okay. Now, again, 1/2 inch score tape, and you're going to go all along this edge. And you're going to go along this edge, and don't worry, there won't be tape along this edge, but you don't want it there anyway, or it'll stick to the corners and you won't be able to shape it. And another piece down here. And I do go around if you're using chipboard, mat board, I go just straight across everything. Across the sides. And that's how your book will look. Okay. Bone folder. Let's just go along all your edges if you're using score tape. Now if you're not using score tape, I should have mentioned this, do not put any of your glue down. You're going to have to do it in each section, or you're going to have dried glue. So if you're doing glue, go ahead and do this top section and right here. I'm going to take all of my score tape off so you can kind of see too how convenient score tape is, because you can even prepare your surfaces and you can leave it if you can't quite finish it right now, and come back and take the paper off later. But if you are using score tape, go ahead and remove all the score tape. If you're using glue, only the top part. You'll have to do it in sections. Now before I bend it, I want to just kind of crease it over, and then you're just going to go ahead and fold it. Don't worry about pulling it too tight on the edge. You don't want it to be too tight or it will tear through. And that's one reason I love to line my books with this craft cardstock. It's pretty tough. Let's go ahead with our bone folder. Do not use this edge because this is the sharp edge, and if you put two sharp edges together, it is going to break through. Now if you're using your pattern paper and you want to wrap it in your pattern paper, you can do this, but I would advise that you do not push very hard because some of the pattern papers do crack. Okay, let's do the bottom just like you did the top. So if you're doing glue, go ahead and get this glued and get it all secured down. Now your corners. Remember, we didn't put any glue, so let's go ahead and just bend that a little bit. Very carefully bend it. You don't want to break any part of the paper. Now you see these corners. Wait for my camera to come up. Make sure we're in green here. Okay. Let me see these. Let me show you. There's these edges. Okay, what you're going to do is you're going to push them in. To be honest with you, for me, it's easier. I turn my book around and then I push them in because I can feel it better. So when you push it in, it will be bent over. Now what you're going to do is just walk with your fingers, just walk that paper right over. See how nice they come together? And let's do it over here on this side. So just bend it. So I can get my book up so I'm not quite upside down with you. And then I just push them in. Just flatten them around that edge. And down. And I take the bone folder. Now see, I did get a little too close on those edges, but it's going to be okay because we're going to cover the inside of our book. Okay, now go ahead and let's very gently, and you might have to use your bone folder to bring in your creases. Very gently form your book. Okay. There. Now you'll have your cover all put together. Now see, there's a seam on the back, but it's a very nice seam. You're not going to see it. So now let's go ahead and cover the inside of our book. Our cover's 6.5 by 6.5. So let me grab some more paper. I'm going to have to open some more. Sorry, I ran out. Only because I had to do this one twice because I did the first video of the cover and didn't save it. Okay. So let's cut. Our paper is going to be 6.5. Well, no. Let me show you. You're just going to go that at the 6.5, that little tiny mark just before 6.5. Okay. You will need 2 of those. Remember, you just want it to be a hair shorter than 6.5. I have to recut one. Let me see. No, I don't. Yes, I did. I went to the 6-inch mark. Good thing I have to make mats with these. So 6.5, just go barely before the 6.5. And I'm using the wheel that I used to cut my chipboard, so I'm going to have to change it here soon. Okay. Now, Oh, I also make sure that they're pretty close. What we're going to do is now we're making the inside cover for our album. So we're going to have one piece that goes across there. You will have another piece that goes across here, but we don't need the full size. So while holding this paper down where you want it, and I definitely want it right up at the edge because I have a little bit of white showing through. Then let's measure. So it looks like, let's go 10 3/4. Okay, so this one is going to be 10 by 10 3/4, and it will cover the inside of our book very nice. Okay, now either glue or score tape, it's up to you. And once again, I am still using my 1/2 inch. And then I am going to go on the edges because I want to make sure it's nice and secure. Now, when you're doing the inside part of the book, do not go this way with your score tape because you will interfere with your hinges or where you're folding. So I take my score tape all the way across, and I'm going to do 3 on the inside. Now if you're doing glue, go ahead and do your glue the same way as I'm doing my score tape. And take my score tape covers off. Okay, now on this piece you're going to make sure all your edges score taper in if that's what you're using. Sorry, you may see my head get in the way, so I'm lining this up. Now let's go ahead. Now this is where the tape comes into play, so that it's going to grab some of that cardstock. It's going to make for a nice fold in your book. And we have another one you just kind of have to feel. Do your crease. And I kind of hold my bone folder there to help the paper get in there. Okay. Now we are ready for the second piece. I know this part is boring, I apologize. But once you make your books, you'll be on your own. You won't even have to look at the video once you get a feel for it. Okay, now let's go across and across one more time. Again, if you're doing glue, go ahead and put all your glue down. Okay, now let's go ahead. Don't worry about, I'm going to bring this up. Don't worry about, sorry, this it's in my way. There you go. Don't worry about matching it to this edge. Let's match it to this edge first. Okay? But try and eyeball it toward your left so that you do get it so they line up. and put that down. Wipe off any excess glue if you're using glue. And let's go ahead and form our book. So I just use my fingers, kind of feel where the fold is. Push my bone folder. Do not push it too far. If you push it too far, you're going to break it, break the paper. Now the third one, yep, it's right there. So if you're trying to really bend your book, you're going to hear the paper snap and crack. So there you have the cover to your book, and the inside is all ready. Now we can put down our spine. Okay, so let's move on to the attaching of our hinge system. So I can't remember if we had already taped the back. I did have to remake the hinge system. This was part of the video that I did not save last night while making the cover. So if you haven't already, you're going to want to go ahead and do your score tape. If you're going to do your glue, like I mentioned before, I don't glue these things, but you can. I know I've mentioned that a million times, I apologize. But your score tape, you're going to want to cover the whole back side. Make sure that's down firm. Cover every inch of it. Now, when it comes to this, I don't like to have any of my tape sticking out the back. Turn off my scissors and remove the tape covering. I have some overlapping, but that's okay. It'll still come off okay. That's what I love about score tape. It is actually quite forgiving. Okay, let's get our cover. Put mine over to this side. Now, you've got to remember you have your 3-inch piece here. That is where your magnets are going to go. So let's go over to the opposite end. Okay, so when it closes, it looks like a normal book. So this is where your hinge would want your hinge system to go. So we've got our hinges. Let's go ahead and take off the back of the score tape or glue, and then center it to where you want it on this little 2.5-inch piece, and push it down. This is where I take my tool from Cricut, because this is a rubber and it's not going to go through my paper or hurt it. And I really push. This is also a step where some of the crafters will use Tyvek, those envelopes from the post office or that you buy. I don't know how it's going. If it's going to come off, the Tyvek's going to come off with it. I still haven't figured out the use of Tyvek, but if anybody out there really has had good success where their book doesn't come apart without it or with it, please let me know, because I'm thinking it's just for me, it's a wasted step. Okay, our pages. Now, like I mentioned earlier, I had this book all put together, the second one, in the video that we did, the pages, and the cover part and the pages, I don't know why I didn't hit save. So what I do is I start with my last page. I have 2 extra pages that were made. They're just plain, there's no flaps. So I'm going to use these, and then I'll put 2 down, and then you'll be able to go ahead and do the rest. So let's take the tape off. I start with the back. The reason being is I like my albums to lay flat, and I usually have my pages all decorated when I do this step, but you don't have to. You can put them on and then decorate them. It's totally up to you. So we've got our first page. Remember how it's one end's open. Now make sure it's the page that you want, and you're going to just slide it over the top. Your hinges might be a little tight, but they should be perfect without having to cut them or miter them. Then I lay it down flat. So see, I've laid it down. Then I push, and I get that edge sealed right there. Now see how much nicer your page is going to lay down? So let's do our second one. Now sometimes I will go ahead and double check my fit. But see, it's going to fit perfect. I don't have to do any of this cutting of the corners. I don't have to, because I've cut it just about 1/8 of an inch shorter than my page. Let's take our page, put it on. Always make sure you're putting it on correctly, not upside down. Now, you don't want it right at the edge, and you don't want it too close to the top because it will slide off. But you want it just about in the middle. Lay it down, push, and there you have your pages. So like I said, I apologize, I only have 2 extra ones made. So now you just need to go along and put on your next 4 pages the exact same way, and then you will have your finished book ready to decorate. Only couple things you'll need to do is your closure. If you're going to use magnets, now is the time to put them down. I have found that 3 of the large basic gray magnets work best. I used 2 on my Christmas album, and it's tight, but not as tight as I would like. Another thing you can do, I'll get out my trusty pearls again. If you don't want to use your magnets, go ahead. Hot glue gun, this, I would use ribbon, not beads, of course. Hot glue down. I use score tape. It holds my ribbons down. Bring it, you can bring it, maybe we can bring it all the way around. There we go. And you can have a tie closure. So you can actually use ribbon if you don't want to use magnets. Either way, you have to put it down before you put down your paper. If you don't, it will, you know, it's going to show, you won't have anywhere to adhere it. So I hope that these videos helped. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to find me on Facebook at Country Craft Creations in Hooper, or leave a comment and I'll be glad to help you. Thanks for watching.